Greetings, Craig.
Greetings.
Oh, how I've missed your tender touch.
It is I, Craig. I am
What
recording.
actual fuck? Dude, I was not looking at the screen when you said that, and I was like, what the hell is going on? What the fuck is happening?
I listen to everything you say.
I love it.
I have your entire life as blackmail. Deep poop.
Fuck you, Craig.
Fuck you, Chris.
Alright, we ready?
I have no idea what that actually sounds like, but
It's hilarious, dude.
It's not bad.
yeah, we're ready.
I did no research for this because I didn't think it was all that
No, this is all
interesting to me.
philosophical.
Yeah, but that's the thing. What, you're gonna go into a philosophical discussion?
I know a couple variants of it, so I guess I'll, like, when we get into it, I'll start off with the...
But what is the
couple
trolley
more
problem about?
The morality
Isn't it
of making a decision that alters
Isn't it
the
a
lives of...
Would you rather?
Yes,
I
it's
feel like-
basically a would you rather. It's basically a would you rather. And then you just vary the options. Like, okay, the standard variant of the trolley problem is that it's going down the track and it's going to hit 5 people. And you're standing next to a lever that switches the track that, like, it's one of those things, you know how the trains can switch tracks? You pull the lever and it'll switch the track to a side track. But on the side track, there's one person. And so they'll die if you pull the lever, right? And so the standard trolley problem is just asking, would you pull the lever or would you not, and why, right? Then following that problem, right, you can go into subvariants of that, which are like, okay, what if the 5 people are death row inmates and the one person, you don't know anything about them, right? Or what if the 5 people are like babies and that one person's an old person, right? Like you can go through a bunch of random subsets like that, right? But then the other step is, okay, same problem. The trolley's going to hit 5 people. There's a sidetrack, or sorry, there's no sidetrack this time. You're standing on a bridge above the track, and there's a fat person there, and you can push them over, and they'll land on the track, and it'll stop the trolley. And obviously, that's unrealistic, but as far as the bounds of the question go, you're supposed to give them 100% certainty that that it will be successful. If they push the person, they'll fall into the track and it'll stop the train in time, and the 5 people won't die. But you have to push this dude off the fucking bridge onto the track, right?
But the
And so
standard
question
is that you don't know what the people are.
Correct. The standard one, you don't know what the people are, and then in the next one, you still don't know what the people are because you don't really know this fat guy either. He's there right on the bridge, and so you push him over, and then the whole reason that that's another variant is because a lot less people are willing to do that one because they have to dirty their hands in a way. You know, it's kind of like the difference between pulling the trigger of a gun versus like getting up close and personal and like, I don't know, ripping someone's throat out or stabbing them or some shit. You know, a gun, it's just like a button or like a drone strike or like whatever. You know, it's less personal. So most people aren't willing to push that dude over the ledge. And then there's another variant, which is like, there's a doctor in a hospital, and he has 5 patients that each require one organ to live, and he has one healthy 20-year-old patient, right? Um, that is going in for a routine, some kind of routine like thing where he has to get put under. And then the question is, would you take the organs from that one healthy person and give them to those 5 people in order to have them live? And then there's a couple more that I can't particularly remember right now, but those are the main variants.
I think those kind of detract from the main point of the discussion, though, because by adding detail, it's allowing personal bias to make a choice, but by having no
It's not
detail,
bias, it's personal values.
well, yeah, but it is that's
So
opinionated
you're
bias.
saying that the trolley problem should be a question of moral absolutes.
Yes. Not even about it's not even about moral absolutes. It's simply a question to make you think about your own morals. and think about how, like, you can't always make the right choice, and you don't always know what the right choice is.
All right, so let's get into this.
But real quick, Chris, what's
What's
up with like Overwatch 2? I've been hearing a lot about this, but I have no idea what it is.
No, it's dumb. I haven't heard a single thing about it, which means it's probably dumb.
Overwatch 2, it's like Overwatch 1, but there's a lot more PvE stuff. So like there's like a story mode and like missions and all this kind of shit.
Oh, so they're going into like the lore and all that.
Correct.
That
But
actually
there's
sounds
still
pretty
all the
interesting.
same. There's still all the same shit from Overwatch 1 and a couple new.
That sounds kind of cool.
New heroes. I don't really give a fuck because all I do is play fucking online multiplayer like scum.
Yeah, you use about the PvP.
Like I play Dark Souls and I skip all the fucking cutscenes. I'm there for the gameplay. Story?
All right,
What
well,
story?
you ready to get started?
I thought we did.
Yeah, let's do it.
Chris, I'm almost done with Spooky Arc.
With what?
With the Spooky Arc.
Oh shit! Yes.
I've been watching One Piece as I do work on like my second monitor.
Bro, you're about to get to a lit moment.
It's been getting pretty hype. I think I'm at 360.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna get to a lit moment very soon.
What episode do you want me to look out for?
Give me 1 sec.
All right. Who's gonna start this?
We already started. We had a whole discussion about the trolley problem already.
Yeah, but who's gonna introduce the podcast?
Hi, welcome to this episode. We're doing the trolley problem. All right.
Awesome. Sounds great. I love it. Let's keep rolling through. Okay, so as I already said earlier, before this podcast was even episode was even introduced, the trolley problem is a simple question. You have a train barreling down the tracks. Well, a trolley. There's 5 people on the tracks. All right, and you're standing next to a lever that can switch the trolley to a different set of tracks where there's 1 person. Do you pull a lever or do you just stand by and let the 5 people die?
And I think the most important question to ask about this trolley problem is, who are these people? And Chris was talking about how there's different variations of this problem where you can answer that question.
Why does it matter who the people are?
But that's the point, is if you don't know who the people are, how could you possibly answer this question? I mean,
I don't pull the lever.
Yeah, I mean, are you not pulling the lever because you think it's the right thing to do to save the 5 people over the 1? Or are you not pulling the lever because you don't want to be involved in the decision?
No, I don't want to be involved in the decision. It's a selfish decision.
Why is it a selfish decision?
I don't want any type of weight. I consider inaction to be equivalent to nothing, so I'm not going to do anything.
Ah, okay. You consider inaction equivalent to nothing. So I don't necessarily agree there, because I think inaction is just as bad as action in some cases. Like, inaction is a choice.
Yep.
If someone's getting bullied...
So you have to know what the result of your choice is going to be. I'll look back and say,
sure,
I could have saved them, maybe. And then leave it there.
Well,
at the same time, inaction is an action of itself. You're consciously choosing the fact
deciding
that
not to do
by not being involved, you're letting things run its course. And that's acceptable as like a, if you have the mindset of like a nature preservist. What's the way to address someone who is like about preserving the natural order of things? But if that's your mindset, then a naturalist. If you're a naturalist, then so be it. Then don't get involved. But in modern society, there's not many naturalists.
So a while back, I actually asked a lot of people this question back in my days at Georgia Tech, and I got a lot of varying answers to this question. Now, I'll put my stance as to why I don't consider inaction nothing. Is because of the whole bullying principle, how they taught you in school, see something, say something kind of shit, whatever, report it, is that if you see someone getting bullied, right, and then you don't do anything about it, a lot of people consider you just as bad as the bully because you're just letting it happen. You know what I mean? And in this case, I know it's a little bit different because you aren't at personal risk. Like with bullying, you're at a personal risk, a very heavy personal risk if you step in to try to stop the bully. You know what I mean? Like if it's three people ganging up on one kid and you're some weak, scrawny, frail person and you try to interject, maybe you're just gonna end up becoming the target of bullying, right? And now you're at personal risk. And even then people consider inaction not okay, that you should at least report it or do something about it. But in this case, you don't have the personal risk. Like you're just pulling a lever. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think that's true. I think there's the personal risk of mental damage. You know, you could all that might haunt you for the rest of your life of never making that decision.
Yeah, I would rather have the regret of inaction than action. I think intuitively we assign greater risk, blame, and regret to action than inaction.
Is that true though?
I think if you take it
I think
generally
that
across
depends
people,
on the
people will
person.
regret inaction a lot less than they regret taking inaction. So if I'm thinking long-term benefits mentally or emotionally, I'd rather have the inaction on me.
I'm the opposite way. I regret inaction a lot more than action.
Yeah, I'm the
Like
same.
if I lived a very standard, I work a 9 to 5 job and I come home and I just watch Netflix and I go to sleep and I say no to everybody around me. Like people invite me to stuff and I don't go. Or I have opportunities come up but I don't take them because I'm just comfortable in my routine. And then I look back at my life when I'm like 80 and I realize I've really done nothing. I would highly regret all the inaction that occurred through that.
Do you have an action that you do regret?
Yes and no. It's a little complex. I don't regret any action that I have done in my life because it molded me to be the person that I am today, and I like the person that I am today. But of course, I regret the action in the sense that I regret the damage, suffering, hurt, pain that I may have caused on other people due to that action. You feel me?
So which is worse, the damage, suffering, hurt, and pain you caused to others, or the ones that you provided, that you stopped yourself from experiencing good things? I argue the first.
Yeah, sure. Like the pain, suffering, damage that I caused other people by performing some sort of action, right, is definitely worse than the regret from the inaction. So in the case of the trolley problem, let's say I pull the lever and I kill that one person, and that one person's family is devastated, right? Like that caused a lot of pain and suffering to that person's family, right? Not this, like that person's dead. So I mean, if we're assuming there's no afterlife and whatever, it's like I didn't cause any suffering to them; they just died, right? Maybe momentary when the train hit them, maybe it was an instantaneous death, but that's it. But here's the thing: is like there's going to be a lot of damage and suffering to the family of the 5 people. You feel me? So
you could argue that that is their responsibility. It's not your responsibility for the suffering they felt from their lost one. I think it's because that
they wouldn't have died unless I didn't.
Yeah, but if you didn't pull the lever, they wouldn't have had that. You feel me?
At the same time, that person's going to die eventually. I mean, so is everyone on track.
I suggest you take the fast route out.
Well, that's rough.
I think the everyone will die eventually argument is not a good one.
Yeah, it's not a good one. But
you obviously care about living.
The base of the argument is that you're saving 5 people over one.
Well, I'm not damning one person to save 5.
So you're damning 5 to save 1?
Not at all. They were already damned.
No, they were already damned. That's the difference. You're coming into a situation. So, okay, here we go. Here's another thing that people responded to me when I asked them this question, right? Religious people, right? They would say, God wanted those people to die. That's what they would say to me. They said, God wanted those 5 people to die. He put them on the track for that reason. The trolley is going down the track. They were destined to die. This is all part of God's plan. So I wouldn't pull the lever and I would just let it happen. Now, my response to that was this. Well, maybe God put you next to that lever. to pull it. Maybe God placed you next to the lever to make the decision to pull it. And every single time I've put that there, they kind of lost their minds for a little bit. And we had to have a very long discussion because
Yeah, the argument of
wrapped their heads around it.
predestination is very weak.
Well, how does
because-
God put me there?
I mean, that's not even a valid question. You are there.
No, but
However-
how could you say that God puts me there when God allows free will? He can't predetermine where I'm going to be or how I'm going to get there.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah,
is
no, but
predestination.
yeah.
Predestination has no meaning because, regardless, if our choices are predestined, then that means whatever choice we make is also God's will.
Correct. So that's the thing is they're already going off the premise that it's predestined because God wanted them to die. You feel me? They're already when they say that, they're already giving the predestination argument to why those 5 people are going to die. So at that point, I can just return with, well, maybe it's predestined that you're next to that lever and that you pull it.
I see what you're saying.
And the same argument occurred when people would talk about fate. Like I would interact with non-religious people, and instead of saying like, "Oh, it was God's plan" or whatever, they would just say it was fate. It was fate for those 5 people to die, and I would just obviously sling back with, "Well, maybe it was fate that you were next to that lever at that time in that situation." With you know what I mean?
Well, how about this one? I go to jail if I pull the lever, but I don't if I avoid it.
Well, now that's the whole reason why in the second variant of the trolley problem, which is as follows: same exact situation, except instead of pulling a lever, you're pushing somebody over a bridge that they will then land on the track and it will stop the trolley. The reason most people aren't okay with doing that is because it's personal involvement in the situation, right? Like you have plausible deniability if you pull the lever, like nobody sees you pull the lever, whatever. You just walk away from that situation and it just happened. You know what I mean? It was a terrible tragedy that person died, but those 5 people didn't. And whatever, it's mysterious. But once you put your own personal suffering into the situation, it adds another layer to it because
Yeah, and it becomes an entirely different question at that point. It's no longer asking the same thing. The first question is asking, where's the morality in having a choice? But the second question is asking, are you okay with killing someone?
Well, that is what the first one's asking. Would you kill one person to save 5, regardless of how far you have to do it?
Yep.
Say you have to click your mouse while at your computer viewing the situation. It's just a distance of separation or degree of separation.
Correct. It's also sort of the whole do the means justify the end kind of thing. That kind of plays into it a little bit here. Like, obviously you can agree that saving 5 people is an action that is good, let's say. Just in general. Like, if you have the option to save 5 people, would you do it? Yeah. Now, if the repercussion of saving those 5 people is that one person dies, does that justify saving the 5 people? Does saving the 5 people justify that you're killing this one person? Do the means justify the end? Or should you get to the end through proper means the entire way through, you know what I mean? Without sacrifice.
Interesting. I'm thinking about situations in which the guy on the track wants the 5 people to live versus doesn't want the 5 people to live.
The 5 people are death row inmates. The one person on the track is a doctor.
Can we talk about the guy who's controlling the trolley, who obviously is not doing his job correctly?
Well, you can't choose to go left or right when you're on the trolley.
Yeah, but you can choose to stop the trolley.
You can choose to try to stop.
Well, if pushing someone
Let's
in
assume
front
the
of it
driver's
is
not
enough.
in it.
There's
All
no
right,
driver.
so the trolley is not going to stop.
Nope.
So then, what's the point of pushing someone over the bridge in front of it?
It's
Just going to run them
stop.
over.
He's 500 pounds. I don't know.
Nobody's-
It's a small trolley. I don't know, man.
It's a small trolley with a 500-pound man. Okay. And this man is precariously looking over, like, "Oh shit, those 5 people are gonna die."
Yeah. See, that's why when you get into the logistics of some of these, that's why you have to kind of have suspension of disbelief in a lot of these cases.
That's why the first question is the only real one, because it removes everything but the points that matter.
Yeah.
Which is you have a
if you're
choice
asking
of
Well,
I
the
feel
other
like
variants
that's not
work
true.
still
It's
too,
about what
though.
you're
The
trying
other
to find
variants
out from
work.
the question.
Yeah, like let's move. Let's stop on this variant for a second and jump to the doctor variant. Like 95% of people disagree with this. That if you're a doctor and you have 5 patients that they need one organ to live, like let's say one needs a liver and one needs, I don't know, whatever.
They each
Then
need an organ. Yeah.
yeah, and then you have one healthy patient, right? Do you, when that healthy patient is under, do you just take his organs, right? Thereby
No,
killing
no.
him to put it into 5 people, right?
You're gonna try to
95%
things
of
that no
people
harm.
say no, right?
Yeah, it's in the ethics of the job.
Yeah, that too, right? So 95% of people say no and they're vehemently against it, right? Even the people who in the initial one were very adamant about no, you pull the lever, you kill the one person to save the 5, right? When you transition to the one where you push the guy off the bridge, a lot of the people who were so adamant about like, oh, save the 5, no longer choose to save the 5. When the only difference is, well, obviously, the logistical, like with the logistics removed from it, like if you know 100% that pushing the guy will stop the trolley.
I want to. I
The
want to
difference
give
is
a.
the separation, right? Is that you're pulling a lever and it feels removed from the situation, like you said, clicking a mouse button or something, versus actually getting your hands dirty or involved in the situation.
Let's alter the doctor problem a little bit. Let's say that you know that you have 5 patients who each need a unique organ, and you're performing surgery on someone who even if you manage to save, they'll be comatose, and that person has on their donation list all 5 of the organs you need. Do you let the patient die during surgery, or do you save his life only to be in a coma for the rest of his years alive?
Do you know it's irreversible? Because most comas are reversible.
You know that
Yeah,
his
that's
brain.
where problems come in.
That his brain is severely damaged.
Oh, okay. Are you saying that in like less functional brains mean less?
No, you're saying you're as an experienced doctor, you're confident he won't wake up from this coma.
I see. Do I let him die? No.
And even if he did wake up, he wouldn't be himself.
So you're saying, do I kill him while he's under? Is that it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
do you let him die during the surgery, or do you?
Well, when you say
save
let him
him?
die during the surgery, you mean I cut him open and then don't fix him?
That would have to be the case, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. You perform the surgery, but however
Botch
you
it.
choose to do it. Yeah, botch the surgery. Let him die.
No.
Yeah, because that goes against the code of ethics of the job. That's what makes it so difficult.
Oh,
Let's alter this real quick. Let's say that instead of a healthy patient, you have a patient who's gonna die. Like his heart, he's in the middle. I don't know. He has heart failure or some shit. I don't know. You know he's gonna die like very soon, and he comes in just for like last minute checkup to see if there's anything that you can do about it because you already told him about his condition, and you check him and you're 100% sure he's gonna die. Right? He has a couple days maybe left to live, but his organs, the 5 organs that you need, are still intact. Do you put him under and take his organs, or like, okay, if you put him under and you take his organs now, then you can save those 5 people. But if you wait the 3-4 days or whatever he has left to live and they die, the 5 patients you have may not still be alive, right? Because let's say he's an organ donor, so when he dies in the 3-4 days, you can take his organs after that, right? But you can't take them beforehand while he's alive, obviously, because then you're killing him. But if he's under, do you just let him die? Similar to the situation now, because instead of somebody who, it's kind of like going into a coma, except they're gonna die. Does that change your outlook on the problem whatsoever, or does the longevity of the person's life not matter? Like in the original trolley problem, if the 5 people, let's say the 5 people were 99 years old, okay, and the one person was a baby, right? Does that change your decision to pull the lever?
I have to do it while he's under.
Yes.
Have they told me what they think about the situation?
What do you mean?
Have they told me like, oh, I'm okay? Do I know if they would be okay with dying for a 4-year-old and that they actively consented to it before the operation?
Well, they're an organ donor, so maybe you're kind of making an assumption
Just
based
saying,
on that.
like organ donors when they're gone, right?
Yeah.
Do I know that they would like to give their organs away regardless of the next 3 to 4 days?
Sure. Let's say you judge that. You don't have explicit, but it's implicit based on the person they are.
No,
like they're
no,
very-
I wouldn't. I would recommend that they go for self-termination, but I wouldn't do it.
I see. Okay. So you might suggest it to them.
Mm.
You might tell them like, look, I've got these 5 patients and they're all gonna die, and you only have 3 or 4 days left to live. Can I terminate you early and take your organs to save these people? Would you maybe ask them that?
Would I maybe ask them? I'd present them the situation. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about on the trolley problem? What's your decision there? If the 5 people are 99-year-olds and the one person on the sidetrack is a baby, what do you does that
I'd have
change
to
your
know.
decision at all?
No, I'd have to know
You have to know what
whether they want to live or not.
the 99-year-olds.
Even then.
Yeah, as we change this dynamic, it just brings up more questions of like personal morality. You know, as
Well, yeah. The
these
question is,
scenarios
do you
become more
value the idea
detailed,
of the human life, or do you value the days it has left?
Exactly.
No, I don't think I would.
Interesting.
We're saying they're
I
trying to
originally
control their baby for these 5. Is that the situation?
Yeah, no, like if you don't pull the lever, the 5 people are just gonna get. Or sorry, fuck, other way around. I'm not. My brain was not functioning there. The 5 people that are gonna get run over are babies, and the one person on the sidetrack is an 100-year-old person. Let's say. Sorry. I had this totally backwards. Of course, you wouldn't pull the fucking lever in that first instance. That makes sense. Well, from the determination, if you consider the total years left of a human life, let's say,
Yeah,
that's valuable.
this one's difficult for me because I'm thinking about whether I care about the expression of human life or
The 5
days.
baby, yeah, exactly.
No,
Because
in the
the
5
100
in the 5 old people versus 1, right? There's a part of me
Yeah.
that says, "Oh yeah, why should I let this baby live? Why not pull the lever? Because am I counting days or am I counting lives?"
Yeah, and then that's
Yeah.
kind of the decision. So when you have, let's say you have 5 babies on the track that are going to die, and you have one person on the side that's 100 years old, not many people live that far past 100. And what kind of a life do you lead when you're 100 years old? You know what I mean? You move very slowly, like you need assistance with everything. So most people in that situation are like, well, maybe the 100-year-old has, let's say, 5 years to live, right? But those babies, assuming that they're healthy, or even if some of them aren't, like they probably have more combined between the 5 of them than 5 years left to live. So the total quantifiable number of human life remaining in the situation is more on the side of the 5 babies. So you should pull the lever because you're preserving more human life.
But not lives.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So that's why in the situation where there's let's say the track is going to hit one perfectly healthy baby, and on the side track there's 5 100-year-olds. Do you pull the lever then? If you're judging it based on the value of human life in the number of years left, then yeah, you probably would, because the baby has more years left. Let's say if we're going off of average life expectancy and whatever. But a lot of people would have a problem with that because you're taking out 5 people for the price of 1.
I think I just found how I'd like to do most of this episode in asking the trolley questions and then figuring out what are the factors that make people answer in certain ways.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I did when I was asking this question a long while back. I would ask it to everybody. Like, that's how I would introduce myself to people. I would just come up and, like, I'd be talking to them. We'd have, like, a small chit-chat conversation. And I'd be like, hey, I have a really random question. And I would just start fucking talking to them about this, which is why I got, like, so many random answers. And I talked through so many different situations, and there were people who were super adamant, like I had those people that every single situation they basically could immediately answered something, and then I would walk them through their answer, and then sometimes they would contradict themselves based on the morality of a certain situation. Like, let's say they would pull the lever in the situation where there are 5 babies on the track and 1 old person, but when there's 1 baby on the track and 5 old people on the side track, they wouldn't pull the lever because they feel like they're killing more people, even though in the initial problem they were valuing the length of time of human life over the amount of people, let's say.
Or it might be the difference between action and inaction, how we perceive it.
That too. Okay, so okay. I think this has a huge separation of why people are more okay with killing when using a gun versus using a knife. Like, if I told you, hey, 10 random people on this planet are gonna die, right? And you're standing in front of someone and you have a gun, and all you gotta do is kill this person. You just have to shoot 1 bullet into them, right? You shoot 1 bullet into them, and the 10 people will not die, right? Most people would be relatively okay with that. A lot less okay if I tell them you have to gun them down. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to empty an entire clip into them and whatever, right? But there'd still be a lot of people that'd be more okay with that because they feel more removed from the situation because they're just pulling a trigger, right? But if I said 10 random people are gonna die, and the only way to stop it is you have to walk up to this person and brutally shank them with a knife, right? Like, a lot of fucking people are not going to be okay with that because of how up close and personal and dirty that gets, right?
Guns kill people. People don't kill people.
That's objectively wrong.
Yeah, but that's the feeling.
Yeah,
guns. I did not kill that person. I used the gun.
I used the gun. Yeah, exactly. That's how people feel about it. Even though the reality is, people kill people, right?
I'm pretty sure that if someone kills someone with a gun, they don't think that it was the gun that killed them.
No.
But subconsciously,
questions about it.
Exactly.
What do you
if
mean?
You had to kill someone, would you rather use a gun or a knife?
A gun.
There's obviously like utilitarian view of, well, not utilitarian, but a utilist idea where, I don't want to get my clothes dirty, right? Use a gun.
Yeah, sure. Or I don't want to fuck this up, I don't want them to have a chance of escaping. I don't want them to, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many variants for why. Like, a gun is just a more effective tool, right?
Yeah, but outside of effectiveness,
but regardless, you still wrestle with the fact that you murdered someone.
No.
Yes, correct. You're obviously going to. You're obviously going to. But the people are less okay. People are a lot less attached to the guilt and negative feelings they get if they kill someone with a gun versus they kill someone with a knife.
Yeah, you're right. If you kill someone with a knife, you're feeling them die underneath your hand.
Exactly. Or like you choke them, or you just beat the living shit out of them. Whatever the case may be, right? With a gun, it's like you're just pulling a trigger, right? Like, if you had a computer program that controlled a drone that had a gun attached to it, and you could just fly it and then just shoot someone, you would feel very detached to that. Like,
yeah,
it's like playing a video game.
I imagine
you could gun people down in GTA.
It would feel just like a video game.
Exactly. So you'd feel very detached from it, and you'd be whatever, right? And I think in cases like that, the consequences would be very low in terms of your mental, like the mental consequences to you. I mean, obviously, at some point, it's going to hit you, or if some external thing happens, like they catch up and figure out that drone's yours, and you get thrown in jail, and then it kind of all adds up, and you realize what you've been doing. Because as humans, we tend to try to push away the reality of certain situations that we're partaking in. We try to mitigate the impact of those situations.
You guys
But
know
if you
the
do it up
Netflix
close and
show.
personal, you're fucked.
You guys know the Netflix show Black Mirror, right?
Yeah, of course.
There's an episode about something very similar to this, where soldiers are wearing an ocular implant that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
disguises people as monsters to essentially convince you to kill them.
Yeah, that shit's nuts. So like they're going out and they're killing all these monsters and they're thinking they're doing a good thing and whatever, and then like you take the ocular implant and see the reality and you're just fucking killing people, you know?
Yeah, and I mean
That's
just
also
makes
another
me
thing. That's
personally.
also another thing. Um, a little bit off topic, but how much imagery and perception plays into aggression and the ability to kill and stuff like that. Like what I'm talking about more specifically is okay, if we had let's say aliens come invade the planet, right? If we had aliens that were gonna come invade the planet and those aliens looked like the fucking Teletubbies or some shit, right? People might be open to trying to talk to them peacefully, you know what I mean? But if aliens come to our planet and they look like Alien from the movie Alien, right, and they're fucking creepy as hell, our first instinct would be like shoot on sight because of the image of what it looks like, right? So in those ocular implants, the reason the soldiers are more okay with just killing these monsters is because they're weird, they're alien, they look dangerous and threatening, and it's like, oh, that's not a
Yeah,
human, right?
your
So we're able to
instincts
just mow them
tell
down.
you that they are a threat.
Exactly. So your instinct is just to like mow them down and not really care. And like it's you mow them down and you don't even feel bad about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
because for
you
you it's
whatever.
survival. For you it's
Exactly.
necessary.
But when it comes to a human being, that's
You know,
when
that
it's
that
different.
actually made me think for a second, that question about, if aliens came, depending on how they looked, would entirely depend. Like that's the same reason that we were racist to black people for hundreds of years, is because we judged them by how they
They were
looked.
different.
Yeah, they were
Exactly.
different.
And that's why like I don't know. I feel like if aliens come, we're just gonna be fucked. Because if the people who are in power right now like were to interact with aliens, they would just fucking shoot them. Like there's not a chance that like if aliens interacted
Well,
with
see,
Trump.
there's another way to look at it, which is if aliens reach us before we reach them, that means their technology is far superior to ours. Possibly their
Correct.
culture too. So it's probably going to be us at their whim rather than the other way around.
Correct. What I mean is, if like they send it, let's say they send an envoy, right? If
Yeah.
the envoy, let's say the envoy isn't properly protected, like let's say the aliens they kind of looked into our society, but they didn't get a full view of how it is, right? So they come in and they think it's going to be peaceful, and they go to try to talk to somebody, right? And then they just get shot on sight before they even have the chance to say anything. Now we're fucked, right? Because now we're totally at the whim of these aliens with higher technology. They're just gonna come and fucking devastate us, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
unlikely that they'll
that's
give us
just
a chance,
RNG.
right?
That's just RNG. It depends entirely on the situation. Who talks to
Yeah,
the
I
aliens?
think
How
that's
do
what I'm
they come
saying.
to us?
I think we should have an alien envoy. I think it should be Elon Musk. I think if aliens come, I think Elon Musk should be
Yeah,
the one to talk to them. Yeah, I think that's how it should go.
I don't know. I don't think there's any one person who's appropriately equipped to talk to aliens.
No, I think
We can
so. I
all
think
say
so.
who's not.
Exactly. We can say who's not, and like for example, Trump would be a terrible choice because he would just shoot them. Like I'm pretty sure that would be his first
Well, I don't
instinct.
know if he'd shoot them. He'd probably try to use them.
during my
It depends how they look again.
Probably-
Remember.
the greatest honor
Yeah.
of making first contact.
Of course, but imagine they look like the alien from Alien. There's very few people I think that are gonna talk.
Of course, yeah. I don't respect spiders. I fear them.
Yeah, but spiders are 1,000th your size, 1/10,000th.
Exactly, and he
Yeah,
still
I
fears
know, I
them,
know.
and he still
I still
fears
fear
them.
So let's say a moral agent comes along in a spaceship and is an overgrown spider with flames. My intuitive response is going to take a long time.
But you fear spiders because of like unfounded reason.
Psychological conditioning
Yeah.
over the course
Most-
of his entire
Yeah,
existence.
there's no reason to fear spiders at all.
Except
even-
poisonous ones. But
disagree.
yes, the ones that
Well,
he
technically-
interacts with, probably not.
All spiders have poison or toxin. It's just 99% of them can't affect you with
Venom.
because they can't.
Not poison.
They're too small to pierce your skin and inject you with suitable amount.
Right, but I fear them because they look like something that may be able to do it.
Yeah, so he fears it based on appearance and also the psychological conditioning from
Yeah,
birth to now.
so we
Of
can
course,
just
if I see
we can
something
just
that looks like
blame
a tiger,
we could just blame media for our psychological conditioning
no.
against aliens.
Here's the thing. Intuitively, I fear bugs and spiders and things of that nature because they look like things that have the potential to hurt me.
They look fucking creepy.
Yeah, they're disgusting to most people.
I fear snakes.
They used to be disgusting to me, but then at one point I clicked in my mind that they're simply just little organic robots that roam around and do their little jobs.
So if you saw two spiders next to each other, and one of them is venomous beyond belief, do you fear either spider? Do you fear
If
both?
I had the knowledge that one
One
of
of
the
the two.
spiders was capable of envenoming me, then I wouldn't be fearful of it. I would be cautious of it.
What is that caution driven from?
From the knowledge that it has the potential to kill me.
Right, and you don't like that outcome.
Right. But like at the same time, I know I've been around people who have had guns in their hands, and I know that those people have quite the potential to kill me. But I didn't fear them. I was just cautious around them.
Mm.
Let's say we meet an alien who is just like a human, but they have extreme physical prowess. Like they have the ability to, flick your forehead and your brain
Yeah.
flying.
At first, when we first saw them, we wouldn't fear them because we wouldn't understand it's an alien, right? Like, let's say I just ran into it on the street, right? But let's say I start talking to it, and then it's like, hey, I'm an alien. I just came here from another planet. And I don't believe it, but then it shows me, and it, like, flicks a wall and blows it up, right? At that point, right, I am going to become fearful because I do not trust this alien quite yet. You get me?
Yeah.
I have no established relationship of trust with the alien. It's like, okay, if right now I go downstairs and there's a random man in the kitchen holding a katana, I'm going to be afraid momentarily. If I walk down into the kitchen and I see you in the kitchen with a katana, I'm going to be less afraid. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm just going to be like, hey, Adam, what's up, right? I have a level of trust with you where I don't think you're just going to randomly chop me up with a katana, right?
And that's why people can be afraid of animals and insects, is because they can't understand.
They can't form that. Yeah, they can't really form that bound
Yeah.
of trust because
They
can't
can't
communicate.
look at its face and understand its current emotion set.
It's why, yeah, it's
Unless
also
it's snarling, in which case you have every reason to be afraid.
exactly.
So cautious is a way of acting, while fear is the emotion. I think is my
Correct.
So I would be cautious out of fear.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
I
here's
would
the
be
thing:
cautious out of.
I
out
wouldn't
of the
act
unknown.
afraid, but I would be cautious because I was afraid.
yeah, and here's the thing: like, okay, if a human being is like running at you, right, or something, in a way that it looks threatening, you feel like you have this stopping power with your words. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You might be able to.
You might be able to say something to stop them, right? Like, I have a bomb strapped to my chest. I don't know. You can say something and it might stop them, or like, hey, you have the wrong person, or whatever the fuck. You might be able to say something that might deter them, or you might be able to communicate with them or reason with them to a degree where you're not going to die. Like people who get mugged, a lot of them don't get killed or whatever. They're getting mugged, and a lot of people, they just comply. They're like, look, my wallet, it's in my left pocket. I'll keep my hands up in the air. Just pull it out. I don't want to die. I'm not gonna turn around. My eyes are closed. I'll count to 100. Like, please don't kill me, right? And then they don't die and nothing happens to them, but they get their wallet stolen, whatever, right? And the thing is, with animals, right, and with, let's say, aliens, people don't feel they have that ability to communicate necessarily, and they're gonna fear it a lot more if they don't. Like, if an alien comes to the planet and we can talk to it, we'll feel a lot more comfortable. At first, we're still gonna feel freaked out, you know what I mean? Especially if it looks like us, but it's like just a way more overpowered version of us. Then we're still gonna fear it at first. It's gonna feel very uncomfortable because we're gonna not particularly trust its intent at first. Until we figure out why it's here and what the hell it wants from us, we're gonna be very fearful. Like, if I were sitting in the room with that alien right now, right? Like, my heart would be constantly pounding, like just waiting for the moment where he's just gonna throw the chair, like just stand up, grab the chair he's sitting in, and throw it at me and obliterate me, and then just go on a rampage, right? So I'm gonna be sitting there until I figure out if his intent is to help us out or to figure out if we're worth helping or whatever his intent is. And once I figure that out is when I'll kind of relax about it. But until then, I would be fearful, even though it looks like a human, right? But I would be infinitely less fearful than if it looked like fucking some giant overgrown spider, right? The giant overgrown spider, even if it communicated with me, it would be a while before I could get comfortable, a fucking long time. Like, it'd be months of me like dying internally every time I
You'd
interact
have
with
to
the
earn a
spider.
lot of trust with that spider.
Exactly, right? Just out of its appearance. And unfortunately, that's just part of the way I feel like we're wired as human beings. Like, we have initial
that's human
reactions to
instinct to
appearance.
be afraid of things like that.
That's just animals.
Exactly.
I mean,
Don't like death.
even though we know that giraffes are docile, if you were next to one, you would be death
Hell
afraid.
no.
Those things are huge. They could crush you without even, really
I don't
trying.
like that. And the fact that I know that giraffes kill lions makes me.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? When you feel that you have an escape or you have some way around it, you feel a lot more comfortable. Meaning, like, I'm not that afraid of an unarmed singular human being, regardless of who they are. I'm not that afraid at all. Even if there's some towering huge beast or some MMA champion, I'm not that afraid because the worst case, I'll just run like fuck. You know what I mean? I'll run like fuck, and I just have confidence in my ability to escape the situation, at least to some degree. But when it comes to, like, I don't know, a fucking polar bear or something, right? Like, I encounter a polar bear in the wild. It's like, I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna fight this polar bear. No big deal, I'll take it down, right? No, I understand the difference in our physical abilities, right? And I know that's not going to be a favorable outcome for me, right? So you're a lot more afraid in those situations because you feel powerless. You feel like you have no options, right? You're completely at the whim of this polar bear, of whether or not it wants to kill you, right?
So now we're on the opposite side of the argument, which is instead of having the power to save or kill, we're asking what happens when someone else has the power to save or kill. In a way, we're looking at it from the perspective of the people on the track.
Yeah. What if we're the alien that's weaker, and they just met us?
Or in this case, we are the alien who is stronger. But it all comes down to, I mean, like, these are two entirely different questions, but they all come down to our base instinct, which is different for every person.
Mhm.
Some people, let's say, for example, like, you hear stories about those people who become, they get bears as pets, and you look at videos of them, and they're like these big burly men who are wrestling around with like wild animals that are their pets, like lions and bears and tigers. The difference is those people are less afraid of those animals, especially if they're big people. They have a much more capable time of handling the animals.
Yeah, but they also have a very deep understanding of how the animals work. They've raised the animals. They understand,
Right,
like, oh,
especially
if I do X, it's going to react aggressively. If I do Y, it's going to be more passive. I should never, like, move quickly in this direction because then it's going to attack me, or I should never turn my back to it because then it takes that as a sign of weakness or whatever bullshit, right? Like, they have their little quirks and stuff. However, a lot of them things go okay, but some of them they still get fucked up. Like there's that dude who was raising bears and he got like he died because one of them mauled him to death, right? So that's the thing is like you can never, because we can't understand them fully. We have a very deep understanding of how a lot of animals interact but because we can't communicate with them, we're just taking their behavior and understanding it through their behavior. Imagine watching like your best friend and watch everything your best friend does, and then on a piece of paper, write down the reason why he does it. And then compare notes with your best friend. Be like, hey, I saw you put your car keys up on the counter. Did you do that because that's where you normally put your car keys? And then see if all the reasonings match up with what your friend did. And I guarantee you they're not going to. Because in a lot of cases, we do things for different reasons than it may appear externally, right? And Adam, you should know this from watching One Piece. There are a lot of times where a character does something and everybody's freaking out as to why they're doing it, but then they explain their reasoning and everybody understands, oh,
Yeah.
now I see it,
Oh
right?
yeah. I mean,
So
there's
I think
plenty of
that's
times
important when
like
it comes to animals.
there's plenty of times that happens in my own life.
I'm trying to think of ways to switch up the statement.
I'll be right back. I gotta pee.
Okay. Chris, say you're the pilot of an aircraft that loses power, like engine failure, right? And you have to bring it down. You can like glide, right? You can choose where to go, but you're going down. And you have the
Okay.
options of a densely populated, fairly populated, and less populated area. Which one do you choose?
Repeat the areas. What areas can I land in?
Very populated, somewhat populated, and barely populated.
I mean, I would choose to land in the barely populated area.
Yeah, the obvious choice is the barely populated area because you just have a less chance of hitting someone else. Better question would be if you have a choice of landing the plane in a populated area with like almost no chance of the plane exploding, or you have a chance of landing it in a less populated area with a higher chance of the plane exploding.
No, but now you're not making a decision. You're making a risk benefit cost to your decision that you would have
Both
made
of them
earlier
are
in the
risk
race.
benefit costs.
No. Well, of course, but now there's a chance, which means you're playing odds, right? And
You're
you're playing
playing odds
odds to
either
answer the
way.
original
You're
question.
playing odds
anyways.
either way.
No. Okay. Okay. Here's
He was going somewhere with this. I'm just gonna keep. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, that's fine.
I mean, regardless of which you're choosing, if you're choosing over population, like population density, you're just playing odds. You're playing odds of risking other people into this.
Right, and I say that by introducing odds on top of that, you do nothing to change the question. Because the choice is still motivated by the same reasoning as the first one.
Which
Yeah,
is
you're
population.
right. Yeah, you're right. My question holds no difference.
It holds value in trying to find whether a person believes that the risk against their better decision initially is worth the chance of a better alternative. At least I think that's what it does. I think the decision to abstain from the initial question very early on is untenable as a moral agent for everybody. Yeah?
What do you
I
mean?
think
What do you
it's
mean?
not- the 1 versus 5. I think it's untenable to abstain, or 5 versus 1, however you want to say that. I don't
You think if you
everybody
apply it to
should
everybody?
choose- No.
You
I'm
think there's a
saying if
problem
you
if you apply it to everybody?
I think that if you apply inaction, there's a consequentialist. Or there's consequences that are untenable. Right? Disasters occur if you do that to every situation. If nobody ever takes the action to save over letting die, surely that leads to disaster in some type of situation. If every agent tries to take actions like that. But selfishly, I know that I would probably abstain.
Yeah. So when you apply that abstinence, let's say, to a wider
I don't think other
population,
people
it
would.
would work.
I assume other people would, but I don't think they should.
Well, yeah, because let's say everybody chose inaction when it came to getting involved in somebody else's shit, right? Let's say the entire planet. If it doesn't involve me, I'm not gonna like do anything about it, right? Well, then anybody could just start bullying somebody rampantly, and as long as they were physically better and stronger than the other person, then nobody would ever interject or involve themselves, and so you'd have a bunch of tyrants everywhere. The only thing that stops tyranny is action. Inaction is what lets tyranny grow powerful. Like look at World War II and like
Unless
the
you're a tyrant.
Holocaust. Well, yes, obviously, but look at the Holocaust and all that kind of shit, right? Like a lot of countries, like when they had all these fucking camps for the Jews and stuff, nobody was doing shit for a while, and everybody was just turning a blind eye until it grew to such a problem that they were like, "Oh, hey, wait, maybe we should do something about this," and then they jumped in. But it's that initial inaction that lets it grow to be such a large problem. All right, freak bitches. This has been another episode of the Booster Riding God King podcast. This is Chris, aka Dante, signing off. Thanks, Daniel and Adam, for tuning in.
Yeah. Fuck you, Craig.
Fuck off, Craig.
Bye.
You cannot defeat me. I will be back.